They told him to carry a drink to table 3. He wasn't staff, he wasn't lost. He was the only reason that room had anything to celebrate tonight. But they didn't know that yet. So they poured wine on him instead. Right down his chest, in front of 200 guests. Under crystal chandeliers, while cameras rolled and phones went up like torches. And the man didn't say a word. He wiped his jaw, straightened his jacket, and walked out the front door like he owned the ground it was built on. What happened next cost them everything. You ever walk into a place where you can feel it? Not the music, not the champagne, but the way a room decides who you are before you even open your mouth. That was the Astor Grand Ballroom on a Saturday evening in October. Marcus Delaney parked 3 blocks away. Not because he couldn't afford valet, he just liked the walk. Liked the silence before the storm. The October air was sharp, the kind of cold that cleans your lungs and makes you stand a little straighter. He checked his reflection in the car window. Navy suit. No tie. Clean fade. Nothing loud. Nothing borrowed. On his left cuff sat a small brass cufflink, scratched, worn smooth at the edges, older than anything else on his body. It belonged to Elaine. She'd found the pair at a flea market in Birmingham, Alabama, the year before she got sick. Held them up to the afternoon light and laughed. These make you look like a man with a secret. She wasn't wrong. Elaine had been gone 3 years. The nearest hospital with a cardiac unit was across the county line the night she collapsed. The ambulance took 41 minutes. She was gone before the gurney cleared the emergency room doors. Marcus had held her hand the whole ride, and when the paramedic said the words he already knew were coming, he didn't scream. He sat in that ambulance, still holding her hand, and made a decision. He would build what that neighborhood didn't have, whatever it cost, however long it took. Tonight, that decision had a price tag. $1 billion. And every cent of it was his. He locked the car, touched the cufflink once, a habit, like a prayer, and started walking. The Astor Grand sat at the end of Whitfield Avenue like a monument to money. Glass facade, marble columns, gold-trimmed awnings. Every window glowed warm against the October dark. Town cars lined the curb. Drivers leaned against hoods, scrolling phones, waiting for people who never said thank you. Inside, the energy was the kind only real money creates, or the anticipation of it. Men in tailored tuxedos shook hands too hard. Women in floor-length gowns floated between circles, champagne flutes catching the chandelier light. Every screen in the building carried one logo, spinning slow. Crestline Corp. Their billion-dollar deal was the only thing anyone talked about. A mystery investor. A partnership that would bring a world-class medical center and education campus to the south side of the city. The part of town most of these guests drove around, not through. Crestline's stock had climbed 14% on the rumor alone, and tonight, the papers would be signed. Live. On stage. At least, that's what everyone believed. Marcus approached the entrance. 2 security guards flanked the gold-framed doors. The taller one spotted him first. His eyes tracked Marcus from shoes to collar, then back down. "Evening," the guard said, stepping forward. "Are you with the catering company? Staff entrance is around the side." Marcus reached into his jacket, slow, and pulled out a black card with a silver seal. Held it between 2 fingers without saying a word. The guard read it. His face changed. First the jaw loosened, then the posture shifted, then the hand dropped. "My apologies, sir. Go right ahead." But as Marcus passed, he heard it. Low, barely above the lobby noise, the guard leaning into his shoulder radio. "We've got a walk-in on the VIP list. Unregistered, black card holder. Someone verify." Marcus kept walking. He'd expected it. He always expected it. What he never did was let it land. The ballroom opened like the inside of a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers hung low over white tablecloths. A string quartet played something soft nobody actually listened to. Round tables filled the floor, each set with polished silverware and cloth napkins folded into crowns. Flower arrangements exploded from crystal vases, white lilies, pale roses. Too sweet scent, like the room was trying to cover something up. Marcus moved through the crowd with his hands in his pockets. Steps easy, face calm, eyes doing all the work. Two women in sequined cocktail dresses pulled their clutch bags closer as he passed. One angled her shoulder like a wall. Neither looked at his face. They looked at his suit, his skin, his shoes, and made a decision. At the bar, a man in a charcoal tuxedo cut in front of him, didn't turn around, just tapped the counter. Scotch, neat. Then, half over his shoulder, staff line is on the other side, I think. Marcus stepped aside and caught the bartender's eye. Water, please. A low voice came from 2 stools down. Graveled, unhurried, they're always like this. Marcus turned. An older man sat at the end of the bar, white hair, sharp blue eyes, charcoal suit with style but no flash. He swirled a glass of bourbon without drinking it. The crowd, the man continued. Every year, same song. Everyone chasing someone's checkbook. Nobody stopping to learn whose name is actually on it. Edwin Mercer, he said, extending a hand. Retired mostly, built bridges for 40 years. Real ones. Steel and concrete. Marcus shook his hand. Marcus, just Marcus? Tonight? Yeah, Edwin smiled, the knowing kind. Fair enough. He sipped his bourbon. I'll tell you something I learned early. The man everyone in the room is looking for? He's never the one they expect. He's usually the one at the bar ordering water. Marcus held his gaze, then turned back to his glass. Edwin chuckled and went back to his bourbon. Across the room, the host tapped the microphone. Cameras swung toward the stage. 200 conversations dropped like a curtain. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Crestline Corp. Annual Gala. Rehearsed applause. The host, silver dress, blinding teeth, spread her arms. Tonight, we celebrate a billion-dollar partnership. A state-of-the-art medical center and education campus for the South Side. A facility that will serve over 200,000 residents who currently travel an hour for basic care. Marcus's grip tightened on his glass. 200,000. He knew the number by heart, because he'd counted every mile Elaine didn't survive. Please welcome the architect of this vision, Garrett Hollis, and his wife, Vanessa Hollis. Applause tripled. Garrett Hollis walked into the spotlight like a man who'd practiced the moment in his bathroom mirror. Dark suit, razor creases, politician's wave. Beside him, Vanessa Hollis glided in a gold dress that threw light back like a warning. Her smile was sharper, predatory. She scanned the crowd like an auctioneer counting heads. This city is about to change, Garrett said. And tonight, you'll meet the partner making it all possible. Patience. You'll know soon enough. Marcus stood near a marble column at the back, close enough to see everything. Far enough to disappear. The whispers started. A woman in pearls leaned to her husband. That man's been standing there since the speech started. The husband glanced over. Probably security detail, or someone's driver who took a wrong turn. At the next table, a younger man nudged his date. $10 he walked in through the kitchen. Stop it. He's not bothering anyone. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying, look around. He doesn't fit. Marcus heard every word. The thing about being underestimated your whole life, people stop whispering quieter. They assume you're not listening because they've already decided you don't matter. He set his glass down and waited. Garrett worked the room between courses, handshakes, shoulder pats, that weapon of a laugh. Vanessa trailed behind, champagne in hand, eyes everywhere. Then she spotted Marcus. Her gaze locked on him, like a scope finding a target. She whispered to Garrett. Garrett turned. His eyes narrowed. He walked straight at Marcus. The crowd parted. Evening, 2 feet away. You enjoying yourself? I am. I don't think we've met. And I know everyone here. Not everyone. Garrett's smile stiffened. He tapped Marcus's sleeve, small, deliberate, the kind of gesture you use on someone you've already decided is beneath you. I'll be straight with you. This is invitation only. If you're part of the service team, there's a coordinator who can point you in the right direction. I'm fine here. Just observing. Garrett chuckled, dry and hollow. Observing, he snapped his fingers at a server. Get this man a napkin. He could use some freshening up. Vanessa arrived next. Heels clicking in a sharp rhythm. She carried a glass of red wine like a scepter and looked Marcus up and down, slowly, the way you inspect something you've decided to throw away. Sweetie, if you needed extra work tonight, you could have just signed up through the agency. Walking in off the street and pretending to be a guest is a little ambitious. Marcus said nothing. His silence hit her like a wall she hadn't expected. Her smile wavered. She recovered. She lifted the wine glass toward him. Table 3's waiting on refills. Start there. He didn't reach for it. I'm serious. If you're going to be here, be useful. I'm not staff, Marcus said. Quiet. No edge. Then Vanessa noticed the cufflink, the small, scratched brass piece on his left sleeve, too dull, too worn, too personal for a room polished to a shine. She reached out and tapped it with one lacquered fingernail. What is that? She smirked. Vintage? Something moved behind Marcus's eyes. Something deep and old and private. He touched the cufflink with 2 fingers. Gentle, the way you touch something that belongs to someone who isn't coming back. Family, he said. Vanessa laughed. Short, dismissive, well, family or not exactly black tie standard. She turned to Garrett, voice rising for the audience. Garrett, honey? I think we have a situation. Garrett arrived with whiskey and his public smile locked in place. He read the room in 2 seconds. This the same guy? He won't leave. And he won't take the glass. Garrett stepped closer. I've tried being polite. My wife's tried being polite. But you're making people uncomfortable, and I'm not going to let one confused individual ruin a billion-dollar evening. Marcus looked at him. Calm, centered. I'm not confused. Garrett turned to the crowd, 20 people gathered now, watching but pretending not to. He recognized the audience. And like every man who confuses attention with authority, he decided to perform. Every year, someone walks in thinking they can fake their way to the top. Standing in a room full of winners doesn't make you one. Nervous laughs. A few nods. He turned back to Marcus. Consider this your exit cue. He snatched the wine glass from Vanessa's hand, raised it high enough that everyone in a 30-foot radius could see what was coming, and tipped it forward. The wine fell in a slow, dark red arc. It hit Marcus's chest just below the collar and spread, warm, sharp, soaking through the white shirt in uneven lines. It ran down the lapel, pooled at the brass cufflink, then dripped to the marble floor. The room didn't gasp. It inhaled, 200 lungs pulling air at the same time. Nobody released it. Phones rose. Screens lit up. A dozen cameras locked on from every angle. Someone near the doors whispered, he actually did that. Vanessa pressed her lips together. The smile she'd been fighting won. She lifted her chin. Maybe now he knows where he stands. Marcus looked down at his chest. at the dark stains spreading across the fabric, at the wine still dripping from Elaine's cufflink, the only thing in this room that had ever meant anything real. He wiped his jaw with 2 fingers. Slow, controlled, he straightened his jacket with both hands. He didn't raise his voice, didn't clench his fists, didn't look at anyone. He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps were the only sound. The quartet had stopped. Servers froze in place. Even the ice in people's glasses seemed to go still. A server near the door whispered to another, "That man just walked out like he owns the whole building." The second server shook her head. "Careful. Sometimes the ones who walk like that actually do." Marcus pushed through the doors without looking back. The hallway swallowed him in silence, and behind those doors, in a room full of crystal and champagne and 200 people who thought they knew exactly how the world worked, nobody had any idea what was coming next. The hallway outside the ballroom was another world. Cool air, low light. The muffled roar of 200 voices pressing against the doors behind him like water against a dam. Marcus walked steady, footsteps measured on the polished stone floor, fingertips brushing the wine stains spreading across his jacket. The fabric was still warm. It clung to his chest in uneven patches, dark red against navy blue. He stopped near a window at the end of the corridor. The city stretched below, headlights crawling along the avenue, office towers lit in grids, a skyline that looked clean from up here but hid all the mess at street level. He knew that mess. He'd grown up in it. He breathed once. Slow, let the air fill his chest, press against the wet fabric, and release. Then he pulled out his phone. The screen lit his face. One contact. He tapped it. The line picked up before the second ring. "Mr. Delaney, ready for instructions." Marcus's voice came out low, even, the way you talk when every word costs $1,000 and you mean every syllable. "Pull the offer. Freeze every channel tied to Crestline. Legal, financial, escrow, all of it." A pause. Not hesitation. Confirmation. "Understood, sir. Full withdrawal. Should I notify the board directly or route through outside counsel first?" "Both, simultaneously. And send the formal termination to every partner listed on the contract. I want it on their screens before the dessert course." "Understood. Anything else?" Marcus looked at the wine dripping from his cuff onto the marble floor. One drop. Then another. Each one catching the hallway light like something small and final. "Make sure the announcement goes public. Not tomorrow. Tonight, yes sir." The call ended. 4 sentences. No emotion. Just motion. He slid the phone back into his pocket and stood there for a moment, alone in the corridor. The muffled hum of the ballroom pressing through the walls like a heartbeat that didn't know it was about to stop. A couple emerged from the elevator at the far end of the hallway. Mid-50s, dressed for the gala, the woman in emerald green, the man in a rented tux that didn't quite fit the shoulders. They noticed Marcus immediately. The stain was impossible to miss. The woman leaned toward her husband. "That's the man from the ballroom." "The one I saw," the husband murmured. They slowed as they passed, trying not to stare, failing. The husband shook his head, almost to himself. Rich folks do that stuff and never think twice. Then one day the wrong person walks in quiet, and suddenly the whole world flips. Marcus didn't react. He was already moving toward the elevator. Inside the elevator, the lighting was soft, warm, designed to make everyone look a little better than they actually were. A mirror ran the full length of the back wall. Marcus caught his own reflection and held it. Steady eyes. Calm jaw. Wine soaking through fabric, and underneath all of it, the kind of stillness that only comes from a man who has already made his decision and is just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. His phone buzzed. A text from his legal team, formal withdrawal letters sent to all listed partners. Public filing initiated. Press release queued. A second buzz. 30 seconds later, escrow accounts frozen. Crestline has been notified. Marcus read both messages, locked the screen, and watched the floor numbers count down. The lobby was busier now. Guests milled around the bar, stepping outside for phone calls, clustering near the entrance to trade gossip and speculation. A woman in a black gown spotted the stain on Marcus's shirt as he stepped off the elevator. "Oh my God, is that wine?" Her friend turned, eyes widening. "That's him. That's the guy. I saw the whole thing on someone's phone. What happened?" Garrett Hollis poured a glass of wine on him, right in front of everyone. Why? Because he thought he was staff. Or a crasher. Or, I don't know. Because he could. Marcus moved through the lobby without slowing. He didn't duck, didn't cover the stain, didn't adjust his walk for anyone. The voices behind him blurred into background noise, the way traffic sounds blur when you've heard them long enough. Outside, the October air hit him like a reset. Cold, sharp, carrying the faint scent of wet pavement and exhaust. A valet in a burgundy vest spotted him and jogged over. "Sir, can I bring your car around?" Marcus raised one hand, palm flat. "I'm walking." The valet hesitated. His eyes dropped to the stain, then snapped back up. "Are you? Is everything okay, sir?" "Everything's fine." Marcus stepped off the curb and started walking. 3 blocks. Same route he'd come. The streetlights threw long shadows across the sidewalk, and his footsteps echoed in the empty space between buildings. Behind him, the glass doors of the Astor Grand caught the chandelier light one last time. Then, something shifted. The music, faint, muffled, leaking through the walls, cut dead. Inside the ballroom, the collapse happened in layers. First, the music stopped. Not faded, stopped, mid-note. The cellist's bow froze 2 inches from the strings. The violinist looked up. The quartet exchanged glances, confused, then set their instruments down. Second, the screens flickered. Every display in the room, the ones flanking the stage, the ones embedded in the pillars, the ones running the Crestline logo on a smooth, hypnotic loop, glitched. The logo stuttered, froze, then went black. Third, the host's phone vibrated on the podium. She picked it up, still smiling, still mid-sentence about the dessert menu. Her eyes scanned the screen. The smile died like a light going out. A tall man in a gray suit, one of the event coordinators, rushed through the tables toward the stage, weaving between chairs and waiters, phone pressed to his ear. His face was shifting in real time, cycling through confusion, disbelief, and something close to fear. He reached the host and leaned in. Whispered something. The host went pale, not slowly, not gradually. It hit all at once, like someone had pulled a plug. Garrett noticed from across the room. He set down his whiskey and started walking toward the stage, Vanessa half a step behind. "What's going on?" Garrett's voice cut through the murmur. The host swallowed. Her throat moved like the words were stuck. "The signing," she hesitated. "It's been suspended." The word landed like a brick thrown into a glass window. "Suspended?" Garrett repeated. His voice was louder now. Heads turned. "Suspended how? By who?" The investor's legal team filed a formal withdrawal. Full termination of the partnership agreement. It came through. She checked her phone again, like maybe it had changed 4 minutes ago. Garrett blinked. Then blinked again. The kind of blink that happens when your brain refuses to process what your ears just delivered. That's not possible. We've been negotiating this deal for 18 months. You don't just. It's confirmed. Mr. Hollis. All channels are frozen. The escrow accounts are locked. The room erupted. Not in applause this time. In noise. Sharp, overlapping, panicked noise. The kind that happens when 200 people realize at the same time that the ground they were standing on was never solid. Suspended for what? A woman at table 6 whispered to her partner. You don't freeze a billion-dollar deal in the middle of a gala, her partner shot back. Something happened. Something definitely happened. At table 9, an executive in a pinstripe suit stared at his phone, scrolling through alerts that stacked faster than he could read. Every account tied to Crestline's partnership fund just got frozen, he said, loud enough for 3 tables to hear. Every single one. Another voice, sharper, from across the aisle, investors are pulling out. I'm watching it happen in real time. My screen's all red. This can't be legal. It's not a question of legal. The investor withdrew. The contract has a unilateral exit clause. We signed it ourselves. Garrett stormed toward the host. Vanessa followed, her heels striking the marble in a frantic rhythm that had lost every trace of elegance. Who gave the order? Garrett demanded. His voice cracked at the edges. I need a name. Right now. The host looked at him the way you look at someone who doesn't realize the building is already on fire. It came from the top, Mr. Hollis. The directive is final. I'm the top. Garrett's voice bounced off the marble walls. The host shook her head. Slowly, almost sadly. Not tonight. That sentence landed harder than the wine had. Garrett's face went through 4 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, anger, disbelief, and something he probably hadn't felt in a long time, helplessness. Vanessa grabbed his arm, nails pressing into his sleeve. Garrett, fix this. Fix what? I don't even know what broke. Someone did this on purpose. Her voice was high now, stripped of every layer of composure she'd stacked on all evening. Someone targeted us. At the bar, Edwin Mercer set his bourbon glass down with a soft clink. He hadn't moved from his stool. Hadn't flinched. He sat with the calm of a man watching a chess game whose outcome he'd seen 3 moves ago. A board member, red-faced, sweat beading at the temples, rushed up to the bar and leaned over the counter, trying to flag the bartender for water. He noticed Edwin. Mercer, you've been here all night. You see anything? Anyone unusual? Edwin rotated his glass on the bar top, watching the amber liquid catch the light. Unusual? Don't play games. Who was that man? The one Garrett poured the wine on. Edwin looked up. His blue eyes were steady, sharp as cut glass. Everyone should have known who he was. That man has been the quietest philanthropist in this city for the better part of a decade. $15 million to the children's wing at Mercy General. $20 million to the public school rebuilds on the south side. The community center on Birch and 9th. That was him. All anonymous. All without a single press conference. The board member's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. You're not saying. I'm saying exactly what you think I'm saying. Near the ballroom doors, a cluster of guests had gathered around a phone screen. The video was already circulating. Someone tapped a friend's shoulder. Look at this. The friend leaned in, eyes going wide. The clip played in sharp, unforgiving detail. Garrett's arm rising, the wine glass tilting, the dark red liquid falling in a slow arc and hitting Marcus's chest. Vanessa's smirk, bright and vicious, caught in full frame. Marcus standing there, still as stone, not a single muscle flinching. Then the wipe of his jaw, the straightening of the jacket, the turn, the walk. The caption underneath, already gaining traction, they humiliated a man they thought was staff. He walked out like he owned the place. The clip spread through the ballroom like fire through dry grass. Every phone in the room seemed to light up at once. People looked at their screens, then at Garrett, then back at their screens. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded. The kind of silence that comes right before something breaks and everyone knows it. A new alert flashed across the main display screens behind the stage. Bold white letters on a black background, partnership with Crestline Corp. Formally terminated. Garrett stared at the words like they might rearrange themselves if he looked hard enough. No warning, no negotiation window, no phone call, just gone. The board member who'd spoken to Edwin was already moving through the crowd, face bloodless, jaw tight. He grabbed Garrett by the shoulder, not gently. "This is catastrophic," he said, voice barely controlled. "Do you have any idea at all, who you offended tonight?" Garrett shook the hand off. "I offended no one." "Some gatecrasher." "That wasn't a gatecrasher." The board member's voice dropped so low it was almost a whisper, like saying the name too loud might make things worse. "That was Marcus Delaney." The name landed like a detonation. Garrett's face went blank. Every drop of color drained from it, top to bottom, like someone had pulled a stopper. "Delaney," the board member repeated. "He owns Alder Ventures. The partner company. All of it. Every share, every dollar. The billion you just announced on that stage? His money. His project. His vision." A gasp rolled across the room in a wave, starting near the stage and radiating outward to the doors. Whispers stacked on whispers. "The guy with the wine on his shirt is the investor? He's the whole deal." And Garrett poured wine on him. In front of everybody. In front of cameras. A server near the wall leaned toward a colleague. "I knew it," she said, barely moving her lips. "I told you that man didn't walk like staff." The other server shook his head slowly. "They picked the wrong man tonight, and they did it on camera." Vanessa's hand was pressed flat against her chest, like she was trying to hold something in. Her breathing had gone shallow. Her makeup was smudging under her fingers where she kept touching her face. "We poured wine," she said, her voice small, stripped of every ounce of power it had carried an hour ago, on the investor. Garrett didn't answer. He couldn't. He stood in the center of a room that had loved him 15 minutes ago and was now watching him like a man standing in a building that was coming down. Across the room, Edwin Mercer finished his bourbon, set the glass upside down on the bar, and stood. He buttoned his jacket once, looked at the chaos unfolding around him, and shook his head. Same thing every time, he muttered to no one in particular. They never learn who's holding the check until they've already spit in his face. He walked toward the exit, slow, unbothered, hands in his pockets. Behind him, the ballroom that had sparkled with a billion-dollar future was crumbling in real time. Guests streamed toward the doors. Board members argued in clusters. Phones rang unanswered. And the screens behind the stage, the ones that had spun the Crestline logo all evening like a promise, stayed dark. On a quiet street 3 blocks away, Marcus Delaney reached his car. He opened the door, sat down, and rested his hands on the wheel. The wine stain had dried into the fabric now. Dark, permanent, shaped like a map of somewhere he'd never go back to. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. One new message from his chief counsel: press release is live. Partners notified. Media pickup is already significant. Do you want us to issue a statement? Marcus typed back with one thumb. No statement. Let the silence do the talking. He locked the screen. Leaned back. Closed his eyes. Somewhere behind him, in a ballroom he'd already left behind, the first cracks in Crestline Corp's future were splitting open. And the aftershocks hadn't even started. Morning was going to be worse. And Marcus Delaney already knew that too. Morning hit the Hollis household like a freight train with no brakes. Garrett hadn't slept. Not a minute. He'd paced the master bedroom in the same wrinkled shirt from the gala, tie yanked loose, hair pressed flat on one side, from the 2 minutes he'd tried lying down before his phone rang again. Every call ended the same way. "We're out, Garrett. Don't call again. The board's recommendation is unanimous. Step down. Our firm can no longer be associated with Crestline. Effective immediately." He stopped answering after the 9th one. Watched the voicemail counterclimb, 11, 14, 19, each one a nail in a coffin he still couldn't believe was being built. Vanessa sat on the edge of their bed. She hadn't changed. The gold dress was still on, creased, the shine gone dull. Her shoes sat where she'd kicked them, one by the closet, one near the bathroom. Mascara streaked down both cheeks in dark, uneven lines. She kept wiping her face with the back of her hand, making it worse. Her phone buzzed every few seconds. She didn't pick it up. She could see the notifications stacking from where she sat. Headlines, tags, comments, clips, all featuring the same moment on an infinite loop. Garrett's arm, the wine tilting, the splash, her smirk, that smirk, captured in perfect clarity. Already a meme, a reaction image, a symbol of everything wrong with people who thought their money made them untouchable. The comments were merciless. They poured wine on the man funding their whole future. "You can't write this." Her face when she finds out he's the investor next is priceless. That man walked out with more class in his stained jacket than that entire room combined. Vanessa's hands shook, not from cold. From the slow realization that this wasn't a bad news cycle a publicist could spin. This was the kind of moment that attaches itself to your name and never lets go. "Garrett," her voice came out thin, cracked. "We have to talk to him." He stopped pacing, red eyes, not from crying, from the dry, burning exhaustion of a man trying to outrun a collapse he couldn't see. "Talk to who?" "Marcus Delaney." The name scraped against her throat. "And say what, Vanessa? Sorry we poured wine on you and called you the help. Could you give us our $1 billion back?" "I don't know what we say." Her voice cracked fully. "But if we don't try, everything is gone. Not some of it. All of it. The company, the stock, our reputation. Every door we've ever walked through is going to close." Garrett stared at her. She stared back. The silence was thick enough to suffocate in. Then his shoulders dropped. Slow, the kind of surrender that happens when a man runs out of walls to punch. Fine, they drove across the city in silence. Vanessa had changed into a dark blouse and slacks. No jewelry. Flat shoes. Hair pulled back, face washed clean. Garrett wore a wrinkled button-down, untucked, no cufflinks. No watch. The route took them through downtown, past Crestline's glass tower, past the financial district, and out toward the east side. The buildings got shorter. The streets got quieter. The lawns got wider. Marcus Delaney didn't live in a penthouse. He lived on Sycamore Lane, a residential street with oak trees overhead, brick houses set back from the sidewalk, and the kind of quiet that money can't buy because it was never for sale. Garrett parked at the curb. Neither moved. "What if he won't see us?" Vanessa said. "Then we go home and explain to 600 employees that their CEO destroyed the company at a cocktail party." The front yard was simple. Green grass, well kept, but not manicured. A concrete path to a front porch with 2 wooden chairs and a small table. No fountain, no columns, no gate. On the porch railing sat a potted lemon tree, small, dark glossed leaves, 2 pale yellow fruits on a low branch. It looked like it had been there for years. Tended carefully. Moved inside during winters, back out when the frost broke. Vanessa noticed it first, but said nothing. Something about it, the smallness, the patience it represented, tightened her chest. Garrett knocked. 3 knocks. His hand was shaking. Footsteps inside. Slow, steady, unhurried, the door opened. Marcus stood in the doorway in a plain gray t-shirt, jeans, no shoes. His face was calm, not performed calm, but the kind that comes from a man who made his peace with the situation long before anyone else arrived. He looked at Garrett, then Vanessa, then back. He didn't speak. He let them feel the weight of showing up. Vanessa spoke first. Her voice broke before the sentence finished. "We were wrong. We treated you like nothing, like you were someone we could humiliate for sport in front of a room full of people, and it wouldn't cost us anything." She pressed her fingers against her eyelids. "I told you to carry a drink to a table. I looked at your clothes and decided who you were. I decided what you were worth based on nothing." Marcus listened. His expression didn't change. Garrett's voice was rougher, shakier. "Mr. Delaney, I poured a glass of wine on you. In front of 200 people. On camera. Because I decided you were someone I could push around. Someone who didn't belong in my world." He shook his head. "I didn't even ask your name." His jaw tightened. "We've lost everything. The deal. The stock. The board. Partners won't return calls. Investors are filing suits." His voice cracked. "We're asking for a chance. To sit down. To talk." Marcus studied them both. Then he stepped to the side, not to invite them in. He leaned one shoulder against the doorframe and crossed his arms. The gesture made it clear. This conversation was happening here. On the porch. On his terms. "You want to know what happened last night," Marcus said, low, even, "but what happened last night didn't start last night." He looked at Vanessa. "You asked me if I was staff. You told me to carry a glass. And when I said no, you didn't hear no. You heard a man who didn't know his place. Someone who needed to be corrected. He looked at Garrett, and you poured wine on a man you'd never met because you were so certain of who I was that you didn't stop to ask. Not once. Not even when security confirmed my card. You couldn't imagine a world where a man who looks like me belongs in a room like that. So you made sure I didn't." Neither spoke. "You didn't lose everything today," Marcus said. "You lost it the second you decided a person's worth comes from your own comfort. From how well they fit the picture you've already drawn in your head. You built a world where disrespect had no cost." He paused. "Now you're just seeing the bill." Vanessa wiped her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "We didn't know who you were." Marcus held her gaze, steady, unflinching. "That's the problem. You didn't care who I was. If I had been staff, the caterer, the driver, the man who set up your tables, what you did would have been just as wrong. The only difference is nobody would have written about it." That sentence hit the porch like a thunderclap with no sound. Vanessa's chin dropped. Garrett stared at the ground. "The wine didn't ruin my jacket," Marcus said. "It ruined yours. Because now every person who watches that video sees exactly who you are when you think no one important is looking." He straightened up. "Is there anything we can do?" Garrett asked. Marcus shook his head. "Once, slow, final, the deal is gone. The trust is gone. I don't do business with people I can't trust. Not for $1 billion. Not for 10 billion. Some things aren't for sale. Dignity is one of them." He stepped back, one hand on the door. "Walk carefully. The world is smaller than you think, and people remember how you treat them when you believe they can't do anything about it." He looked at them one last time. No anger, no satisfaction, just the measured gaze of a man who'd moved on before they arrived. "Take care of yourselves." And he closed the door. They stood on that porch a long time. The lemon tree rustled in the breeze, its two small fruits swaying gently. The way things grow when someone tends them without asking for credit. They left with nothing. Garrett started the engine. The radio came on, a broadcast already running the story. Crestline Corp's billion-dollar partnership collapsed overnight following a viral incident at the company's annual gala. CEO Garrett Hollis was filmed pouring wine on Marcus Delaney, founder of Alder Ventures and sole investor behind the project. Crestline's stock dropped 41% in pre-market trading. 3 board members have resigned. Garrett turned the radio off. They drove home in silence. Marcus's life kept moving forward. That was the thing about a man like him. He didn't stop. Not for embarrassment. Not for vindication. Not for noise. The morning after the gala, he made coffee, sat at his kitchen table, and opened a notebook. Not a laptop. A lined notebook with a cracked leather cover and Elaine's handwriting on the inside flap billed what they said couldn't exist. She'd written it the year they first talked about the hospital. When it was still a dream they sketched on napkins while sitting on the porch, her in the left chair, him in the right. He ran his thumb across her handwriting. The ink was faded, but the letters were sharp. Elaine always pressed hard when she wrote, like she wanted every word to leave a permanent mark. He flipped to a blank page and started writing. Names, numbers, timelines, a different path to the same destination. The hospital would get built. The campus would rise. Just not with Crestline. Not with people who measured a man's worth by the cost of his suit. Over the weeks that followed, the fallout continued. Crestline's stock stabilized at 53% down, billions erased. Garrett stepped down as CEO with carefully worded press releases. Pursuing other opportunities. Personal growth. The kind of language that fools nobody. Vanessa disappeared from public life. No galas, no gold dresses. Someone told a reporter she'd started volunteering at a food bank on the south side, the same neighborhood where Marcus was building. Guilt, growth, or performance, nobody could say. But she showed up every Saturday and never talked about it. The wine video never went away. 12 million views the first week. 30 million by the month's end. A college professor used it in a lecture on implicit bias. A high school teacher played it for her students. What they saw, overwhelmingly, was a man who didn't shout, didn't swing, didn't beg. A man who stood in the center of cruelty and chose to walk away, not because he was weak, but because he knew what came next would say everything he didn't have to. 4 months later. A different kind of evening. Not a gala. No chandeliers. No champagne. Just a cleared lot on the south side, the same neighborhood where an ambulance once took 41 minutes to arrive, where Elaine Delaney closed her eyes and never opened them again. The lot had been empty for years. Weeds through asphalt. Chain-link fence sagging. But now the fence was down. The weeds were gone. And in the center stood a small wooden stage, a podium, and a sign Elaine Delaney Medical Center and Community Campus groundbreaking ceremony. The crowd wasn't 200. It was closer to 1,000. Neighbors, teachers, nurses, council members, kids from the school 2 blocks over. An old man who'd lived on this street 40 years and said he never thought he'd see the day. Marcus stood near the podium, navy suit, new, same style, no tie, clean fade. And on his left cuff, the same brass cufflink. Scratched, worn, still catching the light wrong. When they called his name, he walked to the mic. No notes. No teleprompter. 3 years ago, he said, I lost the person who made me want to build anything at all. The crowd went still. Elaine would have been here. She would have worn something simple and told me my suit was too plain and asked if I'd eaten lunch. Soft laughter. She would have looked at this lot and seen a hospital. A school. A place where someone's mother doesn't have to wait 41 minutes for help that should take 5. He paused. Let the number land. I can't bring her back. But I can build what she believed in. And I can make sure what happened to her doesn't happen to anyone else standing on this ground. He gripped the podium. A lot of people asked me about what happened at a certain event. I'm not going to talk about that tonight. What belongs here is the people in this neighborhood. The families who've been waiting. The kids who deserve a school that doesn't leak. The mothers and fathers who deserve a hospital they can reach in time. He looked out at the crowd, 1,000 faces, all watching him the way you watch someone you trust. This is for her, he said. And it's for all of you. The applause wasn't polished, wasn't rehearsed. It was loud and uneven and real, the sound of people clapping because they meant it. Marcus stepped down from the podium. The sun was dropping behind the buildings, throwing long gold light across the cleared lot, catching the brass cufflink one last time. Behind him, the crowd kept clapping. And somewhere in that sound, underneath the applause, the evening air, all the noise of a city just starting to pay attention, there was something quieter. Something that didn't need a stage, or a microphone, or a billion-dollar gala to be heard. It was the sound of a man who never raised his voice, finally being seen. If this story hit you, if it reminded you that character speaks louder than any room, that patience is its own kind of power, and that the people who build quietly are the ones who change things for good, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Every like, every share keeps these stories alive. The world is full of men like Marcus Delaney, quiet, steady, building something that matters. They deserve to be heard. This is Recorded Dad Stories. We'll see you in the next one.